There, we're live.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome out to your Monday night chat. And we've got John, MJ, and myself, and we are here coming to you. And we want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your night. Hopefully, your voice is sounding a little better than myself. Hopefully, your nose is not running quite as much as MJ's. And the good thing is we're not next to each other, so we are practicing social distancing by many miles. Not just 6 feet. So thank you very much for all that. We're gonna get through it, but please don't make fun of me if my voice cracks.
I'm concerned about you guys, so I'm just gonna put mine.
Oh,
that way I'm, then.
Well, I've already got mine on, John. It's the big fuzzy one.
No.
I don't even know where that's even in the camera anymore.
I'm just on safe.
It probably will ruin the microphone.
There we go. Am I in there now?
I think you are.
Listen, you did the show about where like the sound comes into those. You know that putting something over the top is not really helping like the majority of the sound anyway.
Yeah, it really doesn't do, especially these.
Yeah.
Especially these. We've got some people joining us. Thank you for being with us. Big Daddy's in the house tonight. Thanks for being with us, Big Daddy. I'm sure because this is a topic that's near and dear to his heart because, he doesn't like to talk to anybody. He doesn't like to go out. He doesn't like to go anywhere.
He smiles louder than most people talk.
He does.
He does.
He really, really does. That's a good way to describe it. So MJ, bring us up to speed a little bit on what we're going to be going through tonight.
All right, simply, if you've joined us last week, we were talking about, is this all right? Because it sounds loud in my ears right now.
I think you sound good.
Okay, I must have my ears just must have cleared. But last week on the show, we got into this topic about introverts and different things like that, and I said, hey, maybe we should do a show on that. And I saw John jot something down. I'm like, oh, I think we're going to be doing a show on that. And when it came about, I did what I normally do is over research, over study, or as most people would, or as I would call it, winging it, but other people would call it over preparing. But tonight we're going to talk about introverted versus extroverted people. We're going to help define what they are. We hope to encourage both to find their strengths in this business that we're in, because both have a lot of strengths for certain things in this business. I'm going to give you my point of view because I am very much an introvert, but I believe I have incredible, and I'm not bragging when I say this, I know my skills. I have incredible people skills. Especially for an introvert. It's like a different person, and we will talk about different personalities, personas, the DJ world, all of these things, and they are part of the stuff that's in my book, and I'm very happy to get to share some of these things with you tonight prior to the book coming out. Whenever it comes out, I've spent all day on book cover and still not happy. It's a journey for me. So first thing I want to do is I want to define an introvert versus an extrovert, and this was the best because I can have my definition. And mine's close to this, but I think this was really good. The definition goes, extroversion and introversion refer to where people receive their energy from. Extroverts are energized by socializing in larger groups of people, having many friends instead of a few intimate ones, while introverts are energized by spending time alone or with smaller groups of friends. I want you, Dan and John, I want you to answer this. I was asked this question in high school. It was part of some church lesson that they did. They said, if you were any type of vehicle, what type of vehicle do you think you would be? Best describe yourself with a vehicle. I'll describe mine while you're thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
I said back then, and it's still today, I'm like, that was the right choice. I'm a pickup truck, where I tend to have a lot of people with me, but only a couple are close. Only a couple. Everybody else they're outside the bubble. If we're going, so you can come along. But I think I've revised that to later in life. It's not just a pickup truck, but it's a pickup truck with my motorcycle in the back. So if even those people got to be annoying, I take the bike out and leave them all.
That's interesting. Yeah, to be thinking about it that way. Initially, I was thinking the van with a security wall between.
Prison van.
Yeah, something like that. Because there's times that's nice to have that being involved with a larger group and such, and it's nice to have that vehicle full of people. And then after an hour of that, I'm ready to shut the window and just basically be in my own little world.
I want to touch base on that in a second. Dan, go ahead.
Man, I'm still struggling with this because I never even would have thought to do this.
This was an answer when I was probably 16 years old, and I'm still going, see, I told you guys I knew it back then. I knew what was going on. I get older, dumber as I get older. I had it back then.
Yeah, so I would probably go with an SUV.
Okay.
And for me, it's because I prefer I want that safe, secure path. I want that direction where I'm always going to have, I'm going to have that protection. I'm going to have that, that way to go about it. But I'm also going to have the strength to go where I need to go.
Very good. John, you talked about that you want that guard because after about 10 minutes you're done. You mentioned something to me a while back that you said you'd like to live in a place where you had a neighbor a little bit closer so you could stop over at somebody's porch. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is an extrovert. Do you feel it is in your world, in you? Because we're going to look at it from our own points of view tonight. Everybody in the chat and everything, you have to look at it from your point of view because there isn't a right and a wrong to this. There isn't a defined line. But it's to help you understand where your strengths fall into. Go ahead, John. And
I think I'm kind of comparing this to a situation with Lori. Lori would love to be in a town where there are 10 neighbors, and she can, on an afternoon, could go hit, 6 of the 10 every weekend type of thing. From my perspective, going and finding, having one neighbor that I go over and chat with and sit on the porch and have a coffee and 20 minutes later you leave, I'm good. That's about the extent of it. I don't want to have the conversation get to the point where it's too long and cumbersome because after a while, you just lose interest, whatever. So
Dan, where would you fit in on all that? Because for me, it would be I would want to be somewhere where even the animals can't hear me, and I can't hear the animals because birds are loud. Birds are annoying. So.
Yeah. We need something to scare all the birds away for sure. I believe it or not, I like a suburb type of area where I'm surrounded by people. I don't necessarily need to know them. That's the one key. I don't know if I'm the type who would necessarily go over and have coffee on the porch, but I like being able to say hi to my neighbors from across the street. So I like them to be there. And if I have a conversation, it's, how's the weather? How's the family?
See, to me, that falls perfectly in with your car choice, too, because it is a backup security to have someone else having your back. That's all part of the psychology. Because trust me, on this, in my book, I dive so deeply into these brain features and stuff. All right, so I want to go a little
playing
bit
head games with us, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Watch out.
When I get done with this, you're gonna think that I'm some psychopath or what's his name from Pinky and the Brain guy.
The brain.
Something you need to think of. Yeah, I'm not Pinky. Introverts are not shy. A shy person is not necessarily an introvert. So you have to keep that in mind there. The difference between the two of them, one is a personality trait, the other one is feelings. Mm-hmm. And there's a separation between the two. Being nervous before a gig does not make you an introvert. Okay. Feeling insecure about your abilities is not an introvert's trait. Those are things to think about, that when you're saying someone is an introvert, they could be just shy, insecure, they could have been bullied and just don't want to be centered out. So those don't necessarily make an introvert, okay? I want to recommend, those of you taking notes, if you're taking any notes, I just want to, a video guy on YouTube that you have to go see. He does all videos around personalities, and he has a whole line of introvert versus extrovert videos. Stuff like if an introvert was abducted by an alien, if introversion was like COVID, could be passed from person to person. And he goes through all these things, and it makes you look at the introvert a little differently. And I think he nails it so on. His name is Frank James, so you just go look for him on YouTube. We now want to talk about what we do, and I want to talk about it in 2 points of view, from the bar club DJ and the mobile DJ, okay? Because to me, as an introvert, they are two totally separate worlds. They are day and night, require two totally separate things from you as a person, okay? We had talked before about performing, okay? Dan, on the mobile side, what do you consider performing for what you do, performance?
So I really feel a lot of my performance comes into the MC skills that I utilize. Obviously, mixing works in as well, so it's kind of a hand in hand, depending on what portion of the night that I'm at, whether it's going to be more heavy on the microphone use versus showing off any skill, not showing off, but utilizing any of the skills.
That's part of it, yeah. John, how about you?
I'm sorry, I've got something going on outside here, guys. Hang on.
Okay, we'll keep it going.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
The part of my book I wrote in there to define, and I had talked to what's his name? I can't even think of his name now. He does the weekly things on Disc Jockey News. He MCs a lot of the stuff at the expos. Bill Herman.
Bill Herman. Okay, yes.
Blanked on his name. And I talked to him a little bit about this. And in my book, I've always felt that I can define a artist, an entertainer, and a performer as three separate things, but can be interlaced with each other at any time, okay?
Okay.
So I always looked at it as an entertainer saying, sit back in your chair, you're about to be entertained. The mindset of an entertainer. Sit back, you're about to be entertained. Where, I'll let him get his ears back in. We good?
Yep, we're good. We're good.
No alien abductions?
No, it's just, it's dark, and I am hearing kids' voices outside, and I check one of the cameras, and I see a kid sprinting out of the house. That's not a good sign. But it was just, they're screwing around and playing outside in the dark. So, sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I'm just, where my mind be like, oh, finally they're leaving. You know, that where somebody else is worried.
Yeah, but they're coming closer to him, so it's okay. It's like, wait a minute.
That's it, yeah. All right, so I was talking a little bit about, I feel, and this is kind of where I want to take this performer in our business, introvert, extrovert, too. So I said in my book, there are three types in the industry of what we do. There is an artist, an entertainer, and a performer, okay? And I say the artist is the type of person that would look at the audience and go, sit back in your chair, you're about to be entertained. I'm sorry, the entertainer.
Yep.
Yeah. Sit back in your chair, you're about to be entertained. The artist would say, get up out of your chair, come with me, I'm going to take you on an adventure. Where the performer would say, hey, look what I can do with the chair. So I think that there is a difference of them in how they look at that.
Sure.
Into what you do. And again, they can all be intermingled. They do not have to be separate. But I think those three mindsets separate us as introverts and extroverts in how we can tackle the job of a DJ, whether it be club or mobile, okay? So let's look at the performance side of what you did, Dan, because you almost held back when you said performance and you changed the word. Why did you choose to change that word?
Well, what I said was show off. And from that standpoint, I feel show off becomes a completely look at me philosophy, and that is not how I view what I do. It's not a brand that I take. You know, there are some DJs that is very much about their flashiness and their show off and their look at me mentality, and that is not the way I view it. I feel I take more of the, using your analogy, I feel I take more of the entertain side when it comes to those mixing skills, because for me, I get enjoyment out of watching their reaction. I get more enjoyment out of them responding to how the song is interlaced and how it drops and I hit it at a certain spot and the oh moment than I ever am about them looking at me going, oh, like when somebody comes up and goes, oh, that looks like cool gear. I get kind of weirded out. Like, yeah, thanks. Like, I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
But I drop a track and they're like, yeah, it's like, I'm the greatest guy. I'm the king of the world. That's the, different mentality.
Hashtag killing it. Yeah,
exactly.
In my point of view on that, Dan, I think that you have a base of a performer with the entertainer above, because you still have to be willing to say, look at me, look what I can do with this song. Even though you're doing it to entertain, you have to take that step, that first, all right, I'm standing on performance to entertain you, to then the key of what we do, and I want to get into this later on, how we manipulate emotions intentionally.
Okay.
You're doing it through a song, you're doing it through a memory moment, you're doing it through a first dance. You're intending to create an emotion. You're
Absolutely.
not manipulating for bad, but you are intending to put that person or the crowd into that same moment together so that they can all share.
100%.
But you're working it with your skills and abilities to bring that back to the center. And that's what I think DJing is for both sides. That's where I think they can come together, is that we are trying to unify the crowd in that moment together, to forget about the world around them and to be in that moment, whether it's celebrating the first dance, whether it's just forgetting the end of a work week, anything. And that's where both introverts and extroverts can take the job of DJing and run with it. Mm-hmm. John, where do you feel on that? Like when Dan talked about performance, entertainment, stuff like that, and the stuff that you do.
See, I would almost go to, as you described the three, the concept of the artist, where basically it's like, I'm going to take you I want to take you somewhere, come with me and we're going to go somewhere. That's really the events that I do that I feel the most fulfilled. It becomes that. It's not doing the same type of things that we've done. It's going to be that they have experienced last week's wedding or last week's event. It's that idea we can take them through a musical journey, take them on an emotional journey, what have you, or all the aspects of it. So it becomes more of that, where it's, I at times have had that real feel. It's almost like a take my hand and let's go somewhere.
Exactly.
And we're going to go back to Yacht Rock, and we're going to end up at Huey Lewis. It's going to be a great night. I mean, that's just...
I don't have any liquid to drink.
Yeah. You prepared for everything else. Come on.
Oh, man.
I got my detoxer spray for the fader.
Don't drink that.
No,
Don't drink that.
No. That's not going to work.
That's all I got here. I might have hand sanitizer in the drawer.
That's probably just about as bad.
That would take the show in a whole different word.
Yeah.
An introvert doesn't like to perform. An extrovert, I think, does. I think it's just part of them. An extrovert is also, they like, not only just like being the center of things, but they also like to make other people happy. That doesn't necessarily, an extrovert doesn't necessarily, a performer doesn't mean that it's selfish either. You can perform to make other people happy. That can make you happy, is making other people happy. And that's where I think a lot of this, if it's used, like you said, Dan, it could be taken the wrong way, but I think those things can be put together. An introvert doesn't like to do that, so sometimes this is where I'm gonna take the ignore the man behind the curtain sort of thing. An introvert can create a persona, and in the DJ world, personas are like step one. Come up with your DJ name, okay? I don't think the three of us, none of us use like a weird. What do you use, Dan?
So this goes back to my radio days, and that was actually not because of the persona, but I was taught to have a DJ name because of protection, because of radio and that kind of thing. My initial one was Jay West. I had no idea where it came from.
I like it though.
And then what ended up developing from that was DC, and that's actually where my business name comes from. is because a lot of them called me DJ DC or called me DC. So I just took that and tacked on the end. So it's not crazy, but it was
West to DC.
From now on, it's just gonna be Jay West.
I'm not seeing a connection. I mean, obviously DC, you understand the connection between your real name and that, but
yeah,
how do you get from Jay West to that?
So this was radio started when I was in high school, and the guys I was working with, like, it was like my second night on air. So the first night I actually used my real name. Second night on air, I was talking with a night jock, and we were like trying to come up with ideas. And that was back when you had phone books. And we were trying to like, hey, run down through and point at 2 different things. And we couldn't even that, everything we pointed to, it just sounded stupid. And so it was like probably 20 minutes before I went on air, and he was just like, listen, he's like, I knew this guy. He was like in Virginia or something like that at the time. The other DJ, he's like, he's not anywhere around here. This is what he went by. He's like, just use it. And so I was like, okay. And so for the longest time, that was my name. Like I just used it. And then when I went to Tennessee, I was like, well, man, he's in Virginia. I'm like, that might be kind of close. And so that's when I started developing a different name, not developing a different name, but then started going by names that other people, like, they just used it. Like, this was a couple of friends of mine. They just called me DC. Like,
sure.
I don't even know why, but they just did. And so it kind of felt natural to say, okay, I'm just going to use that.
Yeah, because Dan is such a long
it
pronunciation.
takes way too
so
long
many
to say.
syllables.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
tired
it's funny
saying
because,
it.
like with the radio, like people were like, okay, what's your real name? And so I would use James Washington West. I even came up with a middle name for my old fake name. And so what would happen was I'd use and people like, well, how do you get DC out of that? I was like, well, my middle name's Washington DC. And they're like, that's brilliant. And I'm like,
jeez,
man, hook, line,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the mind of a creative person right there. That's what it's about. You put together things that others don't, and that was perfect because it made everybody go, oh, and then they never forgot it, did they?
Nope.
No.
Yeah. That's what it's about. I go by Michael Joseph. Joseph is my middle name, and Michael's my first. And it's always kind of been that way, that I created a persona for being on stage, and it's just always been that person. And me in real life is a lot quieter. I do not feel the need to talk to you in public. I will and have on multiple occasions leave a store if I see somebody in there that I know is going to want to talk to me. Okay, I'm just letting you know. It's nothing personal. I do it to everybody. If I don't feel like having a conversation that day, I'll go to another store. That's an introvert, all right? So just keep all of that in mind. I'm going to talk about 3 times we as DJs have to look at: before a gig, during a gig, and after a gig, because I think all of those separate our skills and abilities. So before a gig, we're going to talk about some of the things that introverts and extroverts, their strengths are, okay? This is one of the things that it was in that article that I sent you guys that I never thought about it this way, but for picking songs and searching for songs, digging for songs, and practicing is an introvert's dream. And that's same with me. I just love digging. But for an extrovert, that's punishment. It's like, no, just let me go out and do this. I'll just download everything, and then I'll go out and spin it there. Where do you think you guys fall into that mentality of just before the gig music? We're going to go into other stuff before the gig, but that one.
But that one, I was kind of taking it a little differently, that the extrovert, the introvert is going to be more comfortable with Serato. They call it the Serato phase type of thing, where they're here. And whereas, as an example, Lori, when she would DJ, she would have her songs that she was going to be playing all lined up, and she would be able to interact with the floor. People would come up, dancing by, and they're like, yeah, and she'd, right back at them. When people come up and are like, yeah, in front of me, I'm like, somebody back there behind me? I don't want these people talking to me. So I kind of viewed it more that way, is that we use that searching for music as an excuse not to have to look at people out on the dance floor.
Really?
That's why I was interpreting that, because I have on occasions, people are dancing right in front of the computer, and you're like, I don't feel comfortable engaging with these people. I wonder if I can type a letter to the editor or something right now.
I would say that's something else, but I don't know if we need to go into that right now.
Yeah, there's
Dan, how about you?
So I'm seeing a different side of myself, and at the very end, I think I want to share thanks to your revelation, what I'm considered. But I would say that I'm more of the extrovert from that standpoint, because and now I could also chalk it up to time ability because of everything kind of going on, family, day job. I don't have the time to sit there and just analyze everything. So I download everything, take the certain categories of music that I know I'm potentially going to play, drop them into a folder so I have them ready to go. And that's it. I'm not sitting there practicing on end with it like I, in some ways, probably should, but.
I'm the introvert. I'm the person that I put my headphones on in the studio, because I built my own studio, so it's a full room within a room, soundproof, and I still put headphones on top of being in a soundproof studio. I don't want to know the rest of the world exists. I really don't. That's me. I have skills and abilities when I'm out. That's why I said that the other persona takes on over there. But the introvert is the person that I would much rather just sit here and pick through things and practice by myself than even have another human being around me. And John, this is where I think it separates. Why do you think that it bothers you that people would come up to you when you're doing, let's say you were fully prepared like your wife, would you still feel that uncomfortable? Or are you using that as an excuse not to talk? Or where do you feel that becomes?
It's a tough one, because there's always that small insecure part of a person where you don't want to be embarrassed, and you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of people. And as someone, as you know, that as a child, those things happen to you in those middle school years, and you're scarred for life type of a thing. And I think that at times that's still there. Now, if I have gone prior to that and I've been making announcements and I've been doing something where I'm at a higher level and more in that moment, I can, that it doesn't seem as difficult or as challenging. But when you get past that point and that you've kind of come off that, it just seems that it's a slight defense mechanism, and I can't figure out exactly why it's there and does that, because I've had DJs who, you know, they followed more of Lori's methodology of that, and it's a moment of connecting with the audience that would be beneficial, and yet there's times where it's like, okay, you know, if that facade was 2 feet taller, I'd be really good with it.
And I bet that's why a lot of guys do have the tall facades. Mine is at deck height. It's below. You can see my hands, and if my hands are touching the deck, you can see everything. That's the way I want it. But that's where I split off. An introvert doesn't want that, but a good introvert with skills will turn that around to that person, you know, shouting and jumping, doing something to get everyone to pay attention to them. They become the center of attention, and now I'm back being alone again. That's the purpose of what I do, is that I manipulate the situation to get what I want, to be left a freaking alone.
So the rubber chicken launching it across the dance floor. Go!
It could be pointing at someone out there, you know, going, oh, get up here with them. Mm-hmm. You know, trust me, there's a zillion tricks to get things going on, you know, or bouncer, they're gone. That happens too. But it is a skill and ability of what an introvert does, where an extrovert would be like, great, this is a perfect moment to entertain the crowd. Mm-hmm. And you kind of find that balance, you know, because people aren't truly all the way one way or the other. Nothing in life is this or that. There's a lot of grays in the center with everything we do in life. And to find like I said, to find your strengths and weaknesses of an introvert and an introvert could be focused in on that situation to get a good mix and do these things, because that is their goal behind what they're doing is to create the crowd to be centered, tension off of them. That's a strength. A person who's an extrovert would take that situation, be involved, get out there, not worry about the mix, and have the exact same outcome where the audience joins together. And those are two totally different ways of getting that audience to get together there. And I think that's where I want to point people tonight as you see these things. I want you to see that both have skills and strengths to achieve the same thing. So you don't have to change who you are. John, you talked about, when we were talking messages earlier, about how that you've heard some introverts talk about, you know, like, why am I this way? Why can't I change? Tell me, like, what you see in that.
I think some people, and to a lesser extent, even some of the things that I've experienced, is that you feel that, you know, why can't I be able to be energized by a room. When I was doing youth ministry things, our senior pastor I was working under was an extrovert. If he wasn't in a group of people for a few days, he was just like low energy. I mean, he was that person. On the flip side is that when I was done with youth ministry things on after Sunday, I was shot. And it was always like, I enjoy this. I'm good at this. The kids respond well to me. Everything should be where I'm in a situation where when I'm done. So it was like, okay, so why can't I, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me that I can't be like that? And it's a frustrating thing. And as we've gone through the DJ industry, you hear other people talking of similar situations where they see someone who can be out there in front and leads the crowd and is just, feeding off that energy of the crowd. And yes, sometimes we do that, and I can do that and do that well. And there's sometimes that energy from the crowd is intimidating to a point, and it's tough to handle. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna play a slow song right now, again, for the fourth time in a row.
The DJ manipulating the situation to fit what they need.
But I'm being a little facetious there. But the
idea,
but
it's you. The mindset is right there, though. You're explaining it exactly how you are, I think, and I think that's good.
So
you're able to see that.
Yeah, it's been a tough one, and as a family person, you turn it on Saturday night, you do the show, everyone loves it, and then come Sunday is that recharge. Where do you get your energy from? And it becomes that time alone. Yeah. So it became a difficult situation because the family is like, okay, Dad, let's go do something, or hey, let's go to visit the in-laws or whatever type of a thing. And it's like, no, I really don't want to. I just want to sit right here. And to a point, that's one of the coolest things about the whole hitting the treadmill and working out, because that gives me somewhere between a half hour and an hour every day of just me time, where I can go and there's no one else there, and if I can listen to this, do that, whatever. And it truthfully makes it a lot easier to like people.
All right, I want to ask, because Dan talked about this before the show, the exact same situation he had, working all day, working all week, and then DJing on Saturdays and just wanting to be out of it on Sundays. There's a difference between the way an introvert and in other things. It doesn't necessarily have to be an extrovert. Both of you guys, at the end of that, did you feel drained, or did you feel so overwhelmed that you just wanted to quit? Which do you think it was? Empty or overwhelmed?
When I was in the thick of it, it was very much a drain.
Okay.
I was out. I didn't want to do anything. I had no energy to go anywhere, and I felt almost to the point of depression, to the point that I just didn't want to be like, I didn't even want to. I was like, listen, just you go, just go, get out of the house. You go to the friends. You go hang out with them. And of course that didn't go over well, because she's like, oh, you're trying to avoid us. But it was just one of those, like, I know I may have agreed to it, but I don't want to. I don't feel like it. I don't want to do anything.
John, which was yours?
It was easily just being drained. It was like, I'm tired. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to smile at people. I don't want to be cordial. I just going to sit.
Mine is the opposite, but with the same feelings you guys have, where I've had enough stimulus input that I can't take anymore. Like, I know my limits here. I've got to unplug. I've got to disappear. I cannot be social. A human being does not need to be near me. Animals don't need to be near me. Birds, keep it quiet. People are going to think I hate birds. I love chicken. It's a great food.
And I don't think it's quite that bad. I think, as far as, I don't hit that level, but it's got to be much more low key, that it doesn't get to that point. And I know from our past conversations, you've mentioned this situation that you get to that and you're like, I just don't want to. I'm not answering my phone today because I don't. I'm just not going to engage. And
you heard me. You were there when I hit a wall at the expo about 5 or 6 years ago. That was a full out limit right there. Mm-hmm. And it was pure defense. I've got it just, Yeah, and that's a real situation. And when people have those types of things,
they're like, it's like, okay, so why does that happen? And the questions become, and it's like, it's not unusual. A lot of people have variations of it, lower, higher amounts, what have you. But I mean, it's a real situation. Some people are fortunate and they've got more ability to recover quicker. Some don't. But it's not.
We're going to talk about recovery and coping mechanisms here in a bit.
Yeah, the idea that it can be something that can be worked with. Once it's understood, a person can work with it, and that might mean that you put on that game face and you become the persona of DJ DC, and you're up there on top with your chicken hat and your your U.S.
Disco
flag
vest.
Yeah, be great.
We're going to talk about coping mechanisms. We're going to talk about what's the word I'm looking for? Segmenting life, putting things in little spots, because that's a strength. But I want to talk about one more before that affects you guys more than me, is dealing with clients before an event. Me dealing with clients is the absolute worst thing that can happen. Like it is the last thing on the planet that I want to do, is speak to someone, try to get information about their wedding, what kind of stuff they want played, do they want to upsell, all of this. Like, I'm not the salesman, because the salesman is continually trying to get more out of you and more out of you, where an introvert is like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to desist or dampen any sort of interaction necessary. I'm going to answer questions in a way, I'm telling you, this is the way I do it. I answer questions in a way to mitigate me needing to talk more. I will ask somebody questions just in a way so that I don't have to have them ask me something. I'm like, I'll ask them about this, and they're going to talk for 10 minutes, and I get to just sit here. I'm not going to, I may hear them, I may not, I don't know. But how do you feel on your side for both of you? We're going to start with John, or Dan, which do you want to start with? I don't even care.
Yeah, John, go first.
Okay, John, go first.
So I think,
talk about meeting with clients and how that makes you feel, introvert, extrovert, all that kind of sort of thing.
See, now, when doing small group, face-to-face type things, obviously I'm coming off a weekend on a Sunday, not so much, wouldn't have happened too often. But most of the time, I don't really have much of a problem with that. But once it's over, there isn't that dread, is what I'll call it, going into it. It's like, okay, so yeah, it's an inconvenience. Okay. We got to go drive, whatever. It really, but then when I was done with it, there's that, it doesn't feel like quite as much of a drain afterwards, but it's like, that was much more than I had anticipated it being. But I think it's because now I'm in front of two people, and I'm playing a role. It isn't just two of us, or a couple of us sitting around at a table and just talking smart. And if I don't carry the conversation, well, Dan and MJ can carry the conversation for a little while. It's not that way when I
think the three of us have a good balance on that. So
So it is not the dread, the beginning, the front side isn't as much, but the back side is surprisingly still a draining thing for me.
Dan?
I like to meet with my clients. I like to meet and talk with them, but I don't want to talk about myself. Like, I want to talk about them. Like, I want to hear about them. I want them to carry it. Like, I want to ask the question that gets them talking, and I get energized hearing their stories and talking about their events. And when they turn and they ask me questions, like, obviously I'm going to answer them, but it's not something where I'm just the bit to share like everything about me.
Right. Not
like I'm trying to hide anything. But
right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to move on quickly from that. Again, each of those have strengths to deal with. Tough one for me to give an introvert a strength in that situation, other than if you can make it as intimate as possible. Don't meet at a coffee shop. You'll never make it through. Figure out a way where you can meet just with the people you're meeting with and no human beings. Well, that's the best I can tell you with that one.
Now, I actually will say that, based upon what you said and the feelings that you go through, that it would actually work well. Now, the only downside that I could see is where you talked about you may hear them or may not. But when you're talking with clients, you're talking with private clients, especially in the mobile side, you want them talking about themselves, because the more they talk about themselves, the more there's a connection to you. As weird as it may seem, the more they're willing to share, the more that they feel that connection, and the more they're going to want you to be a part of what they're doing. So that turning anything that they have so that they talk more actually works in your favor. So
Well,
that definitely.
I'm doing that.
You'd have to listen though.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, that I'm asking the question so there does not have to be a connection. So I don't have to tell them anything about me. So they don't have to know anything about me, because the more they know about me is more fuel they have for a future conversation that I don't want to have. So my goal is to eliminate them knowing anything about me so that I can just move on. Bye. So it's the opposite. But if you can, that's what I'm saying, that if an introvert can take that and use it exactly like you said, Dan, that is a beautiful, powerful thing. I really believe that could be. I want to move on real quick because I know we're running out of time. During an event, introvert versus extrovert. Me in the clubs and bars, I love it because that's where I get to shine. I do not have to hold a conversation with anybody. I do not have to necessarily interact with anybody. I don't have to do anything but keep that crowd engaged all night long. I'm in control of the music. I'm in control of the lights. I'm in control of the crowd the whole night long. There is no surprises. There's nothing unexpected. And at the end of the night, you're all going to go home, and I'm going to go home by myself, and that's just the way it should be. During the event of a mobile person, you really have to engage. What I always used to say, and I want you guys to take this and run with it. I always say that wedding, you have to be everybody's 5-hour best friend. For those 5 or 6 hours of the wedding, you have to be best friends with everybody. The drunk uncle, hey, how are you? You're looking good tonight. All that kind of stuff. Where do you? That's a broad field. Where do you feel you fit in on that? Dan, we're going to go with you since we were John last time first. Unless you want to pass it on to John.
I'm going to pass to John while I think.
Okay.
So I think this is one of those areas where if I know going in, or if I pick up that that's the type of night it's going to be, I can do it, and I can do it successfully. This year, I've actually more of my mobile events have been that way, where I've had to be that person, and I think because of me doing more interaction during the dinner time and the cocktail time of talking to people and engaging, I think that's one of the big reasons that I hit 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I'm just ready to be done. And why I've gotten to the point where I hate the dance is because I'm ready to. It's like, okay, I've played music to make people dance for 30 years. That I've lost my interest is the way I was viewing it as. But as I've been thinking about it here, in the last couple of weeks, and then even as we've been preparing for this, is it that I have. During that dinner time, I've had to be the MC and directing traffic and doing this and doing a lot of things behind the scenes with people. Then I get that, and then I really don't know, but I can do it. But there is the cost of when I eventually get to that point where I don't like people anymore.
Dan?
I don't view myself as the everybody's best friend for 5 hours or however you worded that.
5-hour best friend is what it was.
There we go. My viewpoint is kind of more of, when I'm out there, when I'm performing the MC, I'm the, I'm, for lack of better terms, like the puppet master, right? I'm directing the traffic. I'm making sure people are knowing what's going on, and I'm kind of setting that scene for different things. And then, but everything that I feel that I really excel at through my events is everything that I do behind. The only people that I feel like I really become 5-hour best friends with is the bride and groom, or the wedding couple. Sorry, the wedding couple, or the other vendors that I'm working with. Beyond that, I very much just kind of want to create those emotions and get that feeling. But I don't feel that I'm not coming alongside Uncle Joe and saying, hey, let's go, let's party.
No, what if Uncle Joe comes up to you?
Stay away from me, Uncle Joe.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah. Like people come up.
Though. That's good.
When people come up, I'll get whatever the request is, and all right, we'll jot it down. If they start looking at my gear or something like that, because every once in a while, you have someone who does it as a hobby or even as another professional, hey, yeah, we'll chit chat, we'll talk shop, type of thing. But beyond that, tell me what you want, and then go do what you're gonna do.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. The person when I talk about is that seller. They're the salesman that when that uncle comes up there, they're trying to impress the uncle as much as they're impress anybody, because they want the salesman, that extrovert, wants everybody there to have the most awesome time and remember them for having an awesome time. So
I want them to remember the awesome time for the things, the emotional ride that I bring them on as a collective group. not in an individual one-on-one type of time.
Okay. We're getting close to the end. I'm going to read over a couple things, and then we're going to talk about recovery. What you guys do recovery, what you've seen other people do recovery. For me, Doring is good for the clubs. That's why I just stick with clubs. I don't do bars and stuff like that. Is because when I walk in, the music's usually going, or I start the music. If someone's opening for me, I can just come in when it's my time and leave when it's my time. If I'm opening for someone else, I come in when my time, leave when it's my time. If it was just a party me going to, I have to spend hours trying to figure out how I'm going to talk with people. And I'm miserable because I'm like, I have to talk to people for hours here, and I don't know when the right time is okay for me to leave. So as you two and your personalities, where does that come from, the DJing side of what you can control, or you just going to the same, you would be a guest at that party, where would you feel you would be? Because to me, that's where it's hard for me. I would rather be the DJ because it gives me guidelines. I know what I'm supposed to do, show up, leave, all that kind of stuff. But as a person going there as a guest, I'm miserable.
I'm not sure if I understand what you mean by the guest.
You going to the party, being the DJ, or you just going to the party? How would you react going to the party? Because me going to a party without being the DJ, just a guest, is not fun. So how do you feel if you get invited to a party to go to a party? Just hang out. Nothing's required of you.
Oh, I got you. I'm fine with that aspect. Like now, there's a certain level, and this is kind of where we talked about beforehand. Like when we go to the expos, and and as far as like, hey, there's a get together, we're all going to the party, like we're all hanging out, and I'm like, I'm there. But when I get there, where I'm at in that room is a big sign of the type that I fall into. So I'm all about going, but where I'm at during is very different than somebody else who's like, let me go to the party, let me be on the floor, let me be center of attention.
I love the psychology behind that. I love the psychology behind it. John?
See, and I think it depends on the crowd, because if we go to a DJ conference, and I know this is much to the chagrin of my wife, I'll work the room at a DJ conference. And that's just that's
a situation where something's required of you. So we're talking to a party where you're not there because you're a DJ. You're just a person.
That's
what I want to talk about.
If it's a family, a wedding or something to that effect, that's going to get a much shorter leash from my side of it. I won't be that person as much. I'll go and see a couple of people that I would like to talk to, but I'm not going to work the room like I would at an event like DJ Expo type of a situation. It's just, and I don't know if that's because I would put on the disc jockey news hat, and we got to go and do that because that's expected, or that's people have come there to see whatever. I don't know how that fits in, but I know there's sometimes where I'll come into a room and I feel like, hey, yeah, I could, I'll enjoy this, and it's going to be, you'll be able to talk to some people and have a good time. And then I can come into another room of people for a party, and I'm like, okay, I've been here too long. Well, you just walked in the door. Yep. It's time.
I love the psychology behind both of these. It's telling me so much about you guys. Example for what you do about putting the hat on, John, you are playing a part there, because Dan, if you remember when we went to the Serato party a couple years ago at the Expo, first off, Dan would not let me wear my virtual DJ shirt to the Serato party. I was so angry. He's like, don't. He was serious. I was scared. But we got to that room, and I remember working the room, coming back, and you're like, where you been? I'm like, I'm working the room. You guys haven't moved. That's what we're here for. I was not there for fun. Other than I really wanted to wear that shirt and get a picture with the crowd behind me. But Dan, I respected Dan as my friend. But I worked the room. That's the difference between the two. My performance side became in and going, I'm going to work the room, even though I don't give a flying crap about any of this. So that's the during. Now we're talking about the after. Okay, the recovery of any sort whatsoever. For me, it's simply unplug. Get away from people, even if there's days where I've talked about where I put these little puff earplugs in my ears at home, and I live by myself, no pets, no nothing, just to get my head to calm the frick back down. I will sit here in the studio, put a sleeping mask on with those things in, and just let my brain calm back down. And that's where I get to that. My recovery has to be that. And then after we talk about recoveries, I want to see what you guys recover, and then we're real quick going to talk about how do you gauge that and keep that from getting to that point. So who wants to go about your recovery?
Yeah, I kind of talked about it a little bit already. Is hitting that day, the day after an event, and it hasn't been as bad this year. And I think part of it, again, even with the shows we did, I think that doing the daily maintenance in that half hour or to an hour of walking has been, but that it's got to be that kind of alone downtime. I don't want somebody talking to me. I just want to be able to do whatever that would be, whether that's going for the walk. I've gotten to the point now where I do the 2-mile walk the morning of an event, go do the event, and then the next day I'm back again, and the next morning doing things. I get up at 6 in the morning, between 5:30 and 6 every day, so I have an hour and a half of time before the next person wakes up in the house. Kind of those times. That has made it so that when I have gone out to do some things, it's been better this year than it has in the past. So I think that prevention to a point, or what have you, and then taking the time afterwards to let that battery recharge a little bit has helped tremendously.
Dan?
So I noticed that how I recover if I have one event in a weekend versus 2 events in a weekend makes a huge difference. So I've gotten to the point lately where one event in a weekend, I'm usually pretty good. The next day, get up, go to church, do some stuff with the family, kind of just chill in the afternoon though, and just kind of breathe. When I've had 2 events in a weekend, I'm spent. Like it's not just an exhaustion, it's a mental fatigue, it's an emotional fatigue, and I want nothing. So I kind of made kind of a conscious decision this year that unless I had a reschedule that caused it, I was going to avoid any 2 in a weekends, because I knew what it did to me personally, and I just didn't like what that then left me available for my family.
Mm-hmm. All right, prevention now. Where do you guys, like you just talked about it there, Dan, about your prevention. Like, what else do you do? Small. I mean, I'm not even talking just the DJ life, but life as a parent, as a husband, as a full-time employee, on top of DJing. What other little things do you have? And you can say alcohol if alcohol is one of those things. I don't want to negate if some. I mean, I'm a person that believes that if you can do without drugs of any sort, do it. But if you need something to help, not habitually, but we all need help. A friend, anything, a pet, whatever your thing is. What do you feel that you have to kind of help with that before you get to that point?
So every night, kind of similar to John, every night, there's times that I have just basically alone time. By the time I'm up, I get a little bit of time. I mean, my wife's already up and she's getting ready for the day job, and so am I. And I'm with the boys all day long. My wife goes to bed early. My boys go to bed early. So once they're in bed, it becomes like Dan time. I can focus on what I have to do for the business. I can just kind of chill. I can zone out on some stupid game on my phone. Just kind of not really pay attention to what's around me, and just kind of zone for a bit. Mm-hmm. And I do that not every night of the week, but I do that enough nights throughout the week that come the weekend, I'm pretty good. Some of that downtime also becomes because the day job is just so
taxing,
taxing, that sometimes I just need that time. And yeah, there's an occasional drink to get me through, but it's not so much because of the weekend stuff as much as the day stuff.
Right. Did John already go? John, no?
No. And the only thing I'd really add when it came to that is being more intentional about situations I'm putting in. The idea of saying no to going and going to a board meeting or a school or a planning session, whatever. There's as far as that are more community, the post-prom thing. I'm not going to get involved with things like that because I'll end up hating myself after a short period of time, because I put myself into a position where I'm just not enjoying. I can go do it. I can help. The event will be better for my being involved, but there's a cost to it. And I've just decided that I'm not going to put my position, because as kind of Dan was saying, I'm taking away from family to do these other things, and I'm not going to do that.
That takes up the very last sentence I have on mine is it's ultimately takes you as far as you want to push your limits. And if you decide that I don't want to go that far, you have to learn to say no. For me, recovery is a lot of years of learning what my limits are, learning ways to what's the word I'm looking for? Not segment.
Segregate?
Compartmentalize a lot of things in life where for these next 4 hours, I've got to be on. So earlier in the day, I'm going to not schedule so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to kind of sit here and watch some YouTube videos. I'm not going to, for me, sometimes it's leaving early and getting to the venue and sitting there in the car for half an hour by myself before I go in. You have to find those things that can get you through, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, and that both means energizing and de-energizing, depending on which way you get pushed. And I hope that you got that from what we said tonight, that both personalities can thrive in this business if you work at it and find your strengths and weaknesses and work those strengths and weaknesses, and have a good support team around you. If you're able to do that, that can take you a long, long way. You guys want to add anything on the end of that?
All right. So do we make our proclamations of what we think, and you agree or disagree?
Okay, go ahead. If you want to throw it out there in public, I mean, go ahead.
I to be honest with you, when we first started talking about this, I really kind of felt that I was more of an introvert, like before we started talking tonight. As you kind of had us dive a little bit deeper, I find myself more probably in the shy or insecure extrovert.
John, do you care to? If you don't have to say anything if you don't want to.
It's what Dan described is the shy, probably more slightly the insecure side of it would probably be larger than the other. But I don't think. Yeah.
I'm the opposite. There's no insecurity. There's no shyness. There's no anything. I do what I have to do, but trust me, I don't enjoy it. So that's where the introvert in me is. It's not that I have a weakness of something, not I'm afraid of something. I'm not afraid of making a fool of myself. I've done that enough times in life, voluntarily and involuntarily. But it's just not fun for me. That's all I can say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any other topics like this you want, let us know. John and Dan, off to you. Thank you guys for letting me take a head on this one.
Let's see. So up next, Howie's going to be joined by Lori and Michelle. They're going to come in and they're going to be talking about the importance of grammar with your digital world. They obviously spend more time dotting their T's and crossing their I's than some of us do. So they'll be up next. DJNTV.com/chill. I just put that into the chat, and I think it went around to the different areas. Again, DJNTV.com/chill. They'll be recording for the first half hour or so, and then after that, you can turn your mics on and be able to be part of that show. And then it will be put up on YouTube at a later date. Tomorrow night, Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe is back. Tomorrow night, we're going to be going through on a wireless microphone all those little menus and submenus that are on those digital microphones. And Ben's going to go through and explain what those mean and how you can utilize those to the maximum advantage of that capability. That leads into next Monday night, which is our monthly DJNTV training night, which is out at DJNTV.com/virtual expo. It's gear night. So we're going to have a variety of sessions that are based around the gear we use. Howie's going to be, we're going to go and look at controlling DMX on the iPad. MJ is going to be showing you how to do some MIDI mapping a little bit, get your feet wet with that. Ben is going to be doing microphone or the microphone from the wireless microphone to your speakers and setting up a gain structure properly to eliminate some of the problems that we typically have. And there's another one in there. I can't remember who's the other one. I can't remember who the last one is. So you just go to DJNTV.com/virtual expo. Let's all do that together. Let's see, who is that other one?
You're legitimately not remembering.
I just, it just you.
How many kids does he have? And
scroll down, and you could see it right here, and it's like, demonstrating microphones by Dan Carpenter. John, yeah, that's right. We got a bunch of Zoom or some wireless microphones, or not wireless microphones, wired USB microphones, and literally I'm going to set those up, and Dan's going to be talking to you, singing songs, and I'm going to be switching microphones, and he's going to tell us which ones suck. It's going to be great.
Yeah, not which song.
No, my microphones.
Which microphone?
Which microphones? Because obviously the ones we use in a studio are pretty nice, but I think I have maybe 8 other microphones that we're going to give you a flavor for different microphones, because as Dan has been doing some communication with Zoom here outside of our little meetings that we're doing, he's been getting complimented on his sound, and of course that's probably because he's got that radio voice from DJ DC, but it also might be because he's got a good microphone. We don't know. We'll find out.
West side.
MJ, are you back this week, Wednesday?
I'm going to try, unless everything falls apart. I'm going to try to do a VDJ Wednesday night. So
Excellent. We got to go. Holy cats, Howie's up next in 2 minutes.
All right. So on that note, thank you everybody for taking some time to join us. Have yourself a wonderful night. Don't forget the great shows. Stay up on those. And don't forget, next Monday night, earlier start with the Virtual Expo. Have a good night.
Night, everybody.